Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, "But I wanted more of this." So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. On this week's episode, I'm excited to be joined by best-selling contemporary fiction author Charlotte Levin. Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. Now, I wanted to emphasize something as I was kind of looking at this introduction. When someone says to me, "Oh, so-and-so is a best-selling author," my brain goes to, "Oh, so this must be over the course of many books." But to clarify for everyone listening, Charlotte's debut was a bestseller. That was so One of One was a bestseller, which is an incredible achievement.
Thank you.
And not to worry for anyone listening, because her second novel, which has actually been chosen as one of Richard and Judy's book club picks, If I Let You Go, has just come out. Charlotte, I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about the new novel.
Yeah, thank you. So it's quite different to my first, actually. So If I Let You Go, it's about a woman called Janet who lives quite a mundane life. She's a cleaner. She's got an awful husband called Colin, and they're both dealing with an awful loss that happened 11 years ago. But Janet is involved in a train crash, and it seemingly appears to change her life, but not everything is quite as it seems. It's quite a hard book to talk about without giving things away.
Oh yeah. I've had enough thriller authors on here to know that you have to leave lots of blanks in your synopsis.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really a thriller. It's sort of like suspense, and it's all set up north, because I am from up north. Yes,
from Manchester, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Both of your novels are kind of focused around Manchester area, are they not?
Well, no. The first. If I Can't Have You is set in London, but the protagonist has just moved from Manchester. She's from she's a Mancunian, but the book isn't set there.
Okay, great. You are representing the Mancunians all over the place.
Exactly. Just keep sticking us in there. Yes, that's right.
I was trying to kind of figure out the genre for your book, because genres are such a it's kind of like a difficult thing to pin down.
Yeah.
I don't feel knowledgeable enough to identify things as specific genres. So I kind of said, contemporary fiction.
Yeah.
Is that about it?
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I was very naive to genre when I started writing a book, and I thought, you just write a story and that's fine. And then on submission, I realized that genre is really important when you're submitting, and for both agents and for them to sell it to publishers. And all my feedback, a lot of my feedback was, we really like this, but we don't know what to do with it because it straddles genres. And even with the publishers, it was, we don't know what to do with this because it straddles genres. So we've never really defined the genre. I mean, the first one was sort of marketed as a psychological thriller, but it isn't really. It doesn't follow the course that psychological thrillers take. But in the reviews, it's like, some people are like, if you love psychological thrillers, buy this. And then underneath will be a review going, this is not a psychological thriller. How dare they? So it is a bit like that. So contemporary is fine because they're both definitely contemporary. But beyond that, I don't really know.
Okay, but there's definitely elements of things like psychological thriller and just kind of drama and things like that.
Yeah. I think they're psychological, but more with the psychology of people. It's like they're morally grey characters, both of them. So it's psychological, but edging more to the character-driven psychology rather than the plot of psychological thrillers.
Okay. Character-driven drama, I guess.
Yeah, they're both definitely character-driven, that's for sure.
Okay, but in terms of themes, there is a theme. I mean, there's a theme going on with your titles, and I know these are I would say probably most likely thing to change when you sign with a publisher or whatever is the title.
Yeah.
But so you've obviously got your debut, If I Can't Have You, and then the new one, If I Let You Go. Was If I Can't Have You, was that the original title that you had given it?
No, it wasn't. So it was called An Explanation of Love, and my editor really loved the title, and we were going to keep it for a long time, and then at the end it was like, no, it's for a debut, it's sort of too long and not grabby enough, so they changed it to If I Can't Have You. And then we went through title hell for the second one, and then they went for that, I think, to tie in the two books, because they are quite different. So I think there was sort of like bridging me as an author with the titles.
Yeah, keep kind of part of creating your brand as an author,
exactly.
Right?
I don't know how long that will go on though.
The If brand.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure I want to have the If brand, but yeah.
Okay, so you don't know if book number 3 will be If something something something.
No, well, book number 3 is about an agoraphobic woman, and I keep thinking, are they going to do If I Can't Go Outside or something? I don't know where this one will go, but yeah, maybe that's what will happen. Okay.
Well, I think it's really good that you obviously, it's your baby, you're creating this thing, but it seems like you're kind of not so precious about the titles there.
No, I think what I've learned, like going through publishing, you kind of have to pick your battles a bit. And, there are things that I have gone, I really don't like this. And I'm so lucky. My publishers are amazing. And my editor, especially Wayne Brooks, he listens to me and takes on board what I'm saying. I don't always get my own way with it, but he at least, is prepared to hear me out. So I think I had to trust, and they were right, that I needed a title that grabbed readers more, and they were right. So there's certain things that you kind of have to trust. If you really, really, really don't like something, then I think it's good to at least push back or give a good reason why not. And I have done that. But you do have to kind of pick your battles, and the title. Covers are more important to me than the title, I felt. Okay.
Were you kind of quite involved with the cover art, the cover design like that?
Not really. With the first one, they sent me like a mock-up, and I had some other ideas for it which were added, and I was lucky that I really loved the cover. The second one, I think they had a whole completely different cover, and they kind of changed tack very late on in the game, so I had less kind of involvement because there was less time to kind of have a choice on it. But I did really still like the cover, so I was lucky in that department. Otherwise that would have been quite awful, I think, if you hate your cover. That's quite a difficult one.
I have heard of it happening, and then you as the author have to sort of just grin your teeth and bear it, and be like,
exactly.
Yes, my beautiful baby.
I know, it's hard. And what's weird is actually seeing how a publisher interprets your book as well, because the cover they put is sort of like, their representation of what they believe is inside the book, and that can be really weird at first.
Yeah. Your covers are quite minimalist in terms of the amount. There's not like some covers are, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise on the cover. Yours are quite simple.
They are very simple. And I did when I first got signed, and I went for a meal with my editor and agent, and I just said the clause, please can I not have a woman running away in a Mac? But apparently that was never going to be part of the thing anyway. But because my book isn't like those kind of thrillers, and I would be upset if it was sort of marketed as that, because there'd be a lot of disappointed readers. So.
Yeah. Well, you've got the cute dog on the front, so
I've got a dog on the front. Yes,
always a win with me. So speaking of, this is your second novel. I've spoken to many authors who have been in that similar position to you, and they have talked about the sort of new challenges that come with the second novel, because often the process, like from writing and inception, can be very different to what it was like with your first one. How did you find that?
Oh, awful. Honestly. But the only thing is, I didn't realize that actually book 3's worse. So
no.
It doesn't get easier, it gets worse, I think. And because I took a good 5 years plus to write the first one, and there was no pressure. I did it when I really wanted to do it, and no one was really going to read it, so I was sort of free to be creative. And then you do the second one, and it's just like an entirely different thing. I only had a 1 book deal, but I made a deal sort of on a partial of my second one, and then so I still had to write the whole one with a deadline, and I found it very stressful. And it was weird because my first one was doing really well, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but every time I got a really good review for my first one, I was like, well, I can't do that again. So it just like added pressure, so
because then it's like, how can I achieve this? Because your first novel has become a bestseller. Just achieving that, it's like, oh, how can I hit the same bar as the first one? It's so difficult.
It was really difficult, especially because I was writing such a different book as well. But all you can do is write the book you want to write, and it's amazing how it turns out okay in the end. You can't. it feels like it, and that's what I'm telling myself right now in the middle of first draft hell of book 3, that it does turn out okay.
Yeah, but it's not all. The challenges are there because, as you say, there's a time pressure now. There are people kind of waiting for this, but at the same time, you do have a greater support network around you. Like presumably, you were working with your editor from a very early stage of this one.
Well, not with this one because I'm out of contract, so it's just me. It's just me on my own again.
Wait, we're talking about the current one, right?
Sorry. Okay, and so I did. So I did send stuff through, and I was able to get feedback, and when I had a couple of problems and I spoke them through. So yes, there is that, definitely. Yeah, that is definitely helpful. And it's brilliant when you like with my first one, and you think that it's finished, and you think that you've done it as well as you can, and then an editor comes and gives you all these amazing notes, and then it's just so much better. And it's amazing how you do when you submit that you think, right, well, this is as good as it can be now, and it's really not. But it wasn't for me anyway.
Yeah. True. And outside of the actual construction of the craft of creating the story itself, going through 2 books out, going through the sort of publishing machine for the second time, in terms of like promotions, like doing the editing cycles, doing the bits and bobs like that, was it a bit more, was that part a little bit easier because you kind of knew what to expect?
Yeah, I suppose. I think you just learn more about how things work every time it happens. So, like, for example, with my first one, I got the copy edits back, and I read it. I sort of had presumed that everything was okay with the copy edits. And then I did a read through for the proof pages, and there was like quite a significant timeline issue, like a big mistake. And I had to like change them on proof pages, which obviously you're not supposed to do. So for my second one, there was like no way I was going to just trust, you know what I mean? It's like I didn't trust it completely, because ultimately it lands on the author. So things like that, like I knew the process more. I knew that I couldn't just accept change without checking it. So I was definitely more clued up, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, you are, as you say, like you learn as you go with these things. The next time, you make a mistake one time, the second time you're like, okay, no, I'm going to double check. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah,
exactly. And it was all fine this time. So it was probably an anomaly. I can never say that word, anomaly. But I still will always check now, because, if that happened again, and mistakes do, everyone's human at every stage.
Yeah.
proofread. Everyone is human, so it's certainly not impossible.
I read a lot of very successful books, and I spot typos in them all the time. So.
Yeah.
It doesn't detract from the book. It's like, it's just a nice reminder that everyone is human.
Exactly. And that proofreader that missed that typo, there was probably like thousands of others that they didn't miss, and you just don't see that bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that one typo that slipped past like so many pairs of eyes.
Exactly. I know, it's crazy. I mean, as an author, I think you just become like blind to it, really, because you fill in the blanks of what it should be because you've read it so much. So it's really hard.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
I've read, or I've spoken to people who, as part of their proofreading phase, they will copy their whole document and then change the font to a different font and reread it.
Okay.
And apparently it just completely because there's an author, you're too close to it, right? So when you read it,
I put it on my Kindle, and when I put it on my Kindle, it's like as if I'm just reading a book, and then everything stands out, which can be good or not good. It depends on.
And some people record themselves reading it to hear how it's paced and stuff.
Yeah, well, I read out, and I use on Word, there's like the voice read back. I use that as well when I read stuff out. So there's lots of ways. You just have to keep coming at it from different things, so the mistakes pop out to you.
Yeah, that's it. I noticed that you said, and this was interesting to me, because you're published by Mantle, which is one of Pan Macmillan's imprints.
Yes,
and
right.
So you said that so it was a 1-book contract initially.
Yeah.
But then you signed a second book, which is this book, If I Let You Go.
Yeah.
Off a partial. Was that as part of the first contract? Do you get a sort of first right of refusal thing? So like did Pan Macmillan or Mantle get to see your first draft?
Yeah, so you have to show them your first draft. I think like I was in a position where they did want to have another book from me. Okay. It was just they were checking that it wasn't a fluke or I hadn't found. So it was so they needed the opening bit.
Okay. Well, I do think it's becoming more and more common for just single book deals.
I mean, for me, I prefer to have a 1-book deal. It's both a risk and can also go in your favor. But like for this book, I want to finish the book because I don't want to be as stressed as I was last time. So I'm hopefully going to just get a first draft of the book and then submit it, back to Pan Mac and hopefully do a deal then. But there's loads of different ways. And some people really like having that 2-book deal because it makes them feel secure that they know that their next book is definitely going to be published, whatever. And I completely understand that way of thinking as well. So it depends, what's the most important to you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there is no right or wrong, way of doing it from either side, from the author side or the publisher side, I don't think.
No, it's all very personal, and some publishers only want to do 2-book deals, some one. So you just have to see what's on offer and what you feel is best for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, speaking of publishing and the kind of wild uniqueness of everyone's journey through publishing, I'd love to dial it back a bit and ask. Well, first of all, If I Can't Have You, your debut novel, which came out in 2020.
Yeah.
Was that you said you spent about 5 years writing it. Was that the first kind of complete manuscript that you'd ever written? Yeah,
it was. But I had done a terrible, terrible, terrible version of it. Okay. And sort of just scrapped it all and started again, but with the same premise, the same character names.
That's interesting.
But the whole thing was different. It was completely different. I just knew that it wasn't right. That's one thing, like some of my author friends are like slightly in awe with how I can just go, that's not right, I'm just going to scrap it all. And they're like, no, that's horrific. So I start again. So yes, it is the only book I've written, but it is a sort of second version of the only book I've written.
And a from scratch second version, not a like I edited this.
Yeah, like, no, not. Yeah. I mean, there was a few little lines and like one paragraph. That's it. The whole thing is completely different. Like in the first one, she was a waitress, and he came into a bar and did a runner without pay. It was just a completely different book. Completely.
Yeah. Well, that's like a really extreme version of a style of writing that I think a few people I've spoken to do, where I've spoken to authors who will write out a chapter and then just delete it and write it again.
Right.
Because the more times you write it, it's the Stephen King mentality of if it's worth remembering, you'll remember it. If it's not worth remembering, cut it anyway.
I don't think I could do that, but I do go. I mean, I do go over things, and I cut about 30,000 words of stuff that I didn't use for the second book.
Right.
It takes me ages to start a book.
Yeah.
Because I spend just so long trying to finding my way into how I'm going to tell the story. So I do that. Like I mean, for my third book, I've got like a file of just openings that are just never going to be used. So,
oh, nice.
But
it's good to know what you're not using, though. I think it's good to if you're having one of those days where it's like, I just don't want to write today, or I don't know where to go with the story. If you just write something, it can then set you on the right path. Having written the thing you're not going to use, I think.
Exactly. It's about freeing yourself up, and I think that is what changes a little bit when you're writing your second, third book. Is you do feel slightly less free because you are reluctant to spend time writing things that you can't use because you have time constraints.
Yeah.
So it's just stepping back and thinking, no, that's part of the process, so I have to do that. Because I do think I almost think you have to write wrong things to get to the right things. I don't think there's any way around it, really.
That's I think it's Bill Hader and another screenwriter or something that they're like, their motto for writing is make mistakes fast. And like you write all the bad stuff, get feedback as much as you can so that you can get to the good stuff quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, there are authors, I'm sure, who just immediately write the good stuff. But for me, it's almost like a process of elimination. I have to try stuff out and go, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And just keep going like that. And then you find the gems inside that. But without giving yourself that freedom to do it all wrong, I just don't know how you can find the right stuff. Well, I can't anyway.
Well, you have. I mean, you have 2 published books now, but you get there eventually. It's about polishing it into a diamond, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I do so many edits. I hate first drafts with a passion, but I love editing. So I just edit and edit and edit.
Yeah. So going back to that first book, you said about 5 years you spent writing it. I'm going to guess that you're with Joe Williamson. That's your literary agent. I'm going to guess that you signed with Joe before you signed with Mantle.
Yes. So, I'd given up on that book, to be honest, because I'd been on submission for so long and I was just getting rejected.
Was that submission with Joe or submissions to Joe?
No, submissions to agents.
Right. Okay.
And I just was rejected by everyone. Some really, really liking it, but saying they didn't know how to sell it because they don't know what genre it is.
Yeah.
And then, so I started writing this other kind of ghost story thing. And then I had an agent come back to me saying, I really love this, but it needs a lot of work. So I thought, okay, I can do that. So I spent 6 months rewriting it. Mm-hmm. And I went out to submission on agents that I hadn't already been rejected by. It was like 32 in total that I got rejected by. And then with the new version, I instantly got lots of requests for fulls. I had like 5 requests in like a week or something. Wow. And I tweeted about that, and Joe we were following each other, but I didn't even consider Jo because she's a children's agent.
Yeah.
And she messaged me and said, "Can I have a look?" And she had a look and she liked it, and it was still out with other agents, but I just kind of like really liked Jo and thought, well, you know, I've been rejected so much and I've got an agent here who really likes it and I really like her, so why not? Let's just do this.
Oh, amazing.
Was that even the question? Like,
yeah,
I think I just went on a bit of a tangent there.
That was my question, plus all the follow-up questions. You covered it. Saved me the time.
Sorry.
That's amazing, though. Gosh, imagine an agent reaching out to you and asking to see your manuscript.
I know. So it was, yeah. So that was a real turn up for the book. So I had gone from being rejected by 32 agents,
yeah,
giving up on it. And then the agent that really loved it, but asked me for a rewrite, I sent it to her and she was like, "Oh, it's so much better, but I don't love it anymore." So
wow,
like, okay.
You just never know.
Exactly. So, but I'm so glad for her, because if she hadn't have loved it but needed rewrites, I wouldn't have done that. And I could just tell it was so much better when I did it the second time. Well,
yeah,
the
that's
millionth
great.
time.
So, I mean, yeah, she didn't take it in the end, but that agent, you know, did you such a great favor by saying, "Listen, there's something brilliant here." But
definitely,
yeah, amazing,
absolutely. So yeah, so you know, also kind of if you get any feedback, even if it's a rejection, kind of use that if you can.
Yeah,
if you've got any info in there. Because it is gold dust, really, because not everyone, well, most people don't say anything. It's just a rejection.
Yes, because, there's just too many people for them to get through a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then I guess once you were with Jo, was the submission from agent to when you started sending it to publishers, to like the editors at the publishing houses, was that a long process?
Well, it was strange because so she sent it to Wayne, my publisher, and he expressed interest within 12 hours.
Ooh.
But then it was like still out with people, and I had the same feedback, a lot of it with, "We really love this, but we don't know how to market it." It was the same thing again on repeat. And it was still out with people who apparently were liking it and still sort of thinking about going forward with it. But then I got a preempt offer, and I really liked what Wayne had to say about it. And it's like he really actually didn't care about that straddling thing. He just really got what I was doing. So regardless of even if I'd sort of been offered more or whatever, I really, really wanted to go with him. So I accepted his offer. So I don't know whether it would have got other offers or not. I'm not sure.
I mean, well, that's great. I mean, to even if it wasn't like signed and like sort of offered on at that point, but to have interest expressed that quickly.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. It was really brilliant.
Especially after being on sub to agents for like such a long time before that, for it then so quickly.
No, exactly. And it's such a weird process, submissions, because I know people that are like now lead titles and having amazing things happen with their books, and they were on submission for like 18 months. Yeah. So, you know, you just really don't know. All you need is that one editor to love it, and then, you know, then you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it just goes to show how subjective the whole thing is. Like it's not often, it's, you know, the quality of submissions nowadays is so high. It's rarely about good or bad. It's about right place, right time.
Absolutely.
What the publishers have coming out, you know, what's popular on the market right now, the zeitgeist. There's so many things out of your control as an author.
And I feel like, you know, it very easily could have gone another way for me. You know, I could have just not done rewrites and thought, oh, well, forget it, and then done another book. And, you know, it feels very tentative all the time. And it doesn't actually stop feeling that tentative, even when you're published, you know, because it's a very up and down business. So, you know, you can be riding high 1 minute and then get dropped, but then, you know, have a bestseller the next book. You've got to really ride the waves on it. It's very precarious, really.
Yeah, you never know, but it has worked out for you. That book did get published. Yes, it became a bestseller, and now your second book, If I Let You Go, is out right now for anyone listening if they want to go and check it out. And that brings us to what is always the final question, the much dreaded: if you were stranded on a desert island, Charlotte, which book would you wish to have with you?
Well, I'm going to go with so there's either like the literary answer or my the genuine answer. When I saw that, the first thing that came into my head was basically How to Stay Alive by Bear Grylls. Because if I'm on a desert island, there's lovely books out there, but I think that would be the most useful.
Smart choice. What would have been the literary choice if you were
I was going to say like War and Peace or something, because I've never read it and it would last a long time.
You'd have the time. Yeah. It's a big old book.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, a very smart choice, probably smarter than most people's choices to take to the desert island. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for coming on the podcast. It's been really cool chatting with you, hearing all about your writing and your kind of experiences with the publishing.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
And for anyone wanting to keep up with what Charlotte is doing, you can follow her on Twitter at TinyCharlotte72, on Instagram at TinyCharlotte29, or on Facebook and TikTok at Charlotte Levin Author. To make sure you don't miss an episode of this podcast, follow along on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You can support the show on Patreon, and for more bookish chat, check out my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again to Charlotte, and thanks to everyone listening. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.